I don't think games got worse. Not exactly. Some games today are bigger, smoother, prettier, and more technically impressive than anything we had growing up. The worlds are massive, the animations are insane. The lighting, the sound, the scale, all of it is better than we could have imagined. But somehow, a lot of games feel numb now. And for a while, I thought maybe that was my fault. Maybe I got older. Maybe nostalgia was lying to me. Maybe I missed being a kid more than I missed the games themselves. Maybe the internet spoiled the mystery. Maybe guides, leaks, tier lists, and walkthroughs ruined the sense of discovery. Maybe games explain just too much now. And sure, all of that is part of it. But I don't think that's the real wound. Because some of the greatest games ever made were actually very clear. They guided you, they taught you, they pulled you forward. Ocarina of Time didn't become legendary because it left everything to imagination. It became legendary because it felt like the future. It made 3D adventure feel real. It gave players a new language, a new way to move through space, a new way to fight, a new way to explore, a new way to think about what games could be. The game was not magical because it was vague, it was magical because it was brave. And that's what I think we actually lost. Not cartridges, not blurry textures, not bad cameras, not being 10 years old with infinite free time. We lost the feeling that games were trying to become something new. Too many games now don't feel like they're chasing fun. They feel like they're trying not to fail. Save enough to ship, save enough to monetize, save enough to become a franchise, save enough to make the spreadsheet happy. And that, I think, is why games feel numb now. Not because modern games are bad, there are still incredible games, but too many of them became products first and games second. Somewhere along the way, fun stopped being the center. Engagement became the center. Retention became the center. The store became the center. The battle pass became the center. The roadmap became the center. The franchise plan became the center. The game became the thing you walk through to reach the monetization. And players can feel that, even when our graphics are amazing, even when the combat is smooth, even when the map is enormous. Something underneath just feels very hollow, because polish is not the same as soul. Content is not the same as play, and more stuff is not the same as more fun. A lot of modern games are full of things to do, but not full of reasons to truly care. Icons everywhere, rewards everywhere, currencies everywhere, crafting materials everywhere, cosmetics everywhere, daily missions, weekly missions, limited time events, seasonal progressions, pre-order bonuses, premium editions, XP boosts, upgrade paths. And after a while, it starts to feel less like play and more like a job pretending to be a playground. And the weirdest part is, none of these systems are evil by themselves. A battle pass can be fine, a store can be fine, a huge map can be amazing, a live service game can be fun. The problem is when the game starts to feel designed around extracting attention instead of creating joy. When every mechanic feels like it has a business reason before a play reason. When the question is not, is this fun? But will this increase retention? Will this drive engagement? Will this support monetization? Will this keep players coming back for 12 months? That's when games start to feel numb. Because fun is fragile. You cannot always measure it on a dashboard. You can't always forecast it in a quarterly report. You can't always prove it in a focus test. Sometimes fun is just someone in a room saying, what if we tried this? What if a player could climb that? What if music was the key? What if the whole game was about one lonely giant? What if the controller itself became part of the feeling? What if the best part of the game is something nobody expects? That kind of thinking is risky, and risk is very expensive now. Games got huge. Teams got bigger, budgets got ballooned, marketing got insanely big, and expectations are incredibly huge. And when everything gets that big, failure becomes terrifying. So the industry does what industries do. It copies what worked. It sands down what is strange. It adds the systems investors understand. It removes the parts that are hard to explain, and the parts that are hard to explain are usually the parts that makes a game memorable. Surprise, weirdness, taste, atmosphere, silence, confidence, a mechanic that feels wrong for 10 minutes and brilliant after an hour. A world that does not immediately explain itself. A choice that only makes sense because someone had a vision and protected it. The best games in history were not always bigger, they were sharper. They had a point of view. They had a reason to exist beyond revenue. Mario 64 was not safe. It asked players to understand space differently. Ocarina of Time was not safe. It tried to translate adventure into 3D. Halo was not safe. It made console shooters feel natural when that still sounded impossible. Resident Evil 4 was not safe. It tore apart what people thought survival horror was. It removed almost everything and still felt enormous. These games were not perfect, but they were alive. They moved. They reached something. They made you feel the medium changing under your feet. Not gone, but rare. And when it appears, we notice immediately. That's why people still talk about games that feel strange, games that take a real swing, games that commit to a tone, games that don't feel like they were designed by a committee trying to offend nobody, games that are allowed to be smaller, allowed to be weird, allowed to end, allowed to become a platform, allowed to not sell you something every time you open the menu. Because players are not stupid. We know when a game respects us. We know it is trying to delight us. And we know when it's trying to extract from us. That's the numbness. Not that games are bad now, but that technology ruined everything. Not that old games were better just because they were old. The numbness comes from calculation replacing courage, from profit coming before play, from games being designed to minimize risk instead of maximizing wonder, from the feeling that the fun was approved only after the monetization model was secured. And this is why nostalgia is such a tempting explanation. Because yes, we miss being younger. We miss having more time. We miss playing without thinking about work, bills, messages, kids, sleep, and everything waiting outside the door. But nostalgia does not explain everything, because when a new game is brave, we still feel it. When a game surprises us, we still feel it. When a game is made by conviction, we still feel it. That means we are not incapable of wonder. Too many games just stopped giving wonder a chance. They give us content, they give us progression, they give us cosmetics, they give us maps full of things to clear, they give us numbers going up. But they don't always give us that feeling of, I have never played anything like this before. And that feeling matters. That feeling is why people remember games for decades. Not because the texture resolution was high, not because the map was big, not because there were 400 collectibles, but because for a moment, the game opened the door in your brain. It made you think differently, it made you move differently, it made you care about something that did not exist before you pressed start. That is what I want back. Not the past, not childhood, not worse controls or blurry textures. I want games that feel brave again. Games that are allowed to be focused, allowed to be strange, allowed to choose identity over mass appeal, allowed to chase fun before profit. Because the future of games should not be bigger maps, longer roadmaps, and better stores. The future should be weirder than that, more human than that, more surprising than that. Games should still be the place where the impossible gets tested, where a bad idea can become brilliant, where a mechanic nobody asked for becomes the reason people remember that game forever, where a small team can embarrass a giant company because they remembered something obvious. Players want to feel something. Not just complete something, not just unlock something, not just optimize something, but actually feel something. Joy, fear, curiosity, mystery, wonder, confusion, or even frustration when it means something that we truly care about. That is what separates a game from a product that wants your time. A game gives you reason to lose track of it, and that is the feeling I'm still chasing. Not the past, not the future, the weird, risky, fun future that games used to promise. So, no, I don't think games got worse. I think too many games got scared. Scared to be weird, scared to be focused, scared to be misunderstood, scared to make less money than the safest possible version of themselves. And when games are made with fear, they start to feel numb. But the cure is not nostalgia. The cure is courage. Make something strange. Make something focused. Make something that does not apologize for being itself. Make something that remembers that fun is not a metric. It is the point. That is when games stop feeling numb. That is when they feel alive again. And that is what this channel is going to explore. The games that had that feeling. The games that lost it. The systems that killed it. And the developers still brave enough to bring it back. Because maybe the magic is not dead. Maybe it is just waiting for games to take risks again.